Hello and welcome back to Prism and Company. I'll be real with you guys today. I'm kind of bummed out. I've had a sort of a tough day, but I will not be moping the entire video because on the docket today we have Tom Benjamin's new Tarot de Marseille. There is the name. I won't even try to pronounce it because I won't be able to. But why do I bring this deck in on a day like this where I'm feeling a little bit bummed out? Because I think the thing that makes this deck special is a little hint of joy. Let's take a look at even the box here. We have our suits on the side, our candles, our cauldrons, our ghosts, and our pumpkins. We have this awesome Dracula on the back with these crazy little pumpkins on the bottom in his coffin and a little moon in the bat. A little boo on the bottom here. I think the box in and of itself is a perfect archetypal representation, let's say, of how this deck operates. It doesn't take itself seriously, but it's not shallow. I've done some readings with it. It is a beautiful, buttery smooth reader, which does not surprise me even in the slightest because Tom Benjamin's whole thing is clear, effective tarot readings. So the idea that his deck would be bad at reading is just obscenely impossible to me, which makes me smile in and of itself. But yes, I got this deck recently and I just couldn't be more excited. Some things about me that you may or may not know. I'm not a big Tarot de Marseille fan. I love me a good Pip deck, but there's something about a Marseille deck that I find a little bit stagnant. And I'm not a super big Halloween fan. But I think this deck is like far enough on the circle away from things that I'm interested in that it circles back around to something that I totally love and literally can't get enough of. So that's where I'm at. I say let's like dive in and take a look at why I think joy has just been injected into this object. And we'll kind of take a peek at some cards along the way. Sweet. Well, actually, let's bring that box right back on in for a sec because I'd love to give you a little context on Tom Benjamin before we dive in. Now, I would imagine everybody knows about Tom Benjamin. The idea that you know about me but not Tom Benjamin is insane to me. That feels crazy. He is a fellow tarot tuber, in case you did not know. Far more prolific than myself. He's been doing it forever. I think like at least 6 years or so. Obviously, he has created a tarot deck, what we're looking at here. He has also written a book, Tarot on Earth, A Practical Approach to the Cards. Lovely workbook, by the way. If you are wanting to get better at reading tarot, I cannot recommend this enough. It's a very crunchy, down-to-earth, practical approach. Super duper cool. But Tom Benjamin, there we go, is actually one of the folks who inspired me to kind of get into tarot and also to start making YouTube content. Tom Benjamin and also Elle from Sacred Seed. Those were like my two first tarot loves. They were great. So super cool guy. Just cannot recommend them enough. Yes, with that, with all of the gushing out of the way about how cool Tom Benjamin is, his real name is, should I say his real name? I think that's fine. He goes by Ben Jolivet on Instagram. Whether that's his real name or not, it is. That should be fine. I'll ask him to make sure he's cool with that. Okay, let's get to the cards. Enough waffling, Colin. All right. Permission officially granted. Yes, I will also put Mr. Jolivet's link to his Instagram page in the comments below as well, where he not only posts super cool tarot stuff, but also delicious food that he makes. It looks amazing every single time. The cards, the thing that I always like spend 6 minutes getting to that I should just like put out right away. One day I'll learn. These are the backs of his lovely Marseille cards. Here we have bright orange with black bats. And I really love the negative space on these cards. That is the space in between the bats that make these kind of running patterns. When you have text on a page, like a paragraph, for example, you'll often get these. They're called rivers that flow through the text. So it almost looks like little rivers that kind of go through. And I think it's cool. It gives this back a very organic feel. From a distance, it almost feels like brambles or branches or something, which also in its own way has a very Halloween-y vibe. And then you get closer and see that they're bats and they're very cute. And I just love it. So kind of spread out. It makes a really cool pattern too. This is one thing I love about tarot cards is that you get the ability to see something so many times. You get 78 of, on the back's always the same image. So it's this very cool kind of like pattern if you were to spread it out in different ways and get kind of these ebbs and flows. And, you know, orange and black are just very satisfying together because they're beautiful Halloween colors. And it's so funny. Tom Benjamin is like a real stickler on cardstock. And I'm so glad he's actually really happy with how his cardstock turned out. So that makes me really, really happy. Lovely shuffler, beautifully smooth, kind of a linen-y finish on it. Just great. But we are not here about the cardstock. We are here about the joy. And even on the backs, all these little silly bats. I use silly with the most, oh my goodness. Full disclosure, I'm not only a little bummed out, I'm also just off of work, so words are hard for me right now. Now I forgot what I was saying. The bats are full of joy, whatever. The bats are cute and full of joy, and I literally forgot what I was saying about them. But things like this, the fact that it doesn't take itself too terribly seriously is just lovely to me. Little things that I can notice on the back here, things like these two bats basically touching along with these two bats here, or all of these bats being in the same spots and then these ones kind of being a little bit off. Like there are little things in this deck that are like could be considered imperfections, but instead of treating it like an imperfection, it was just treated as a little bit of kind of whimsy. And I know he's not a big fan of that word, but he has definitely used it for some decks. And the Marseille style decks, that Marseille tradition, are typically wood block, and they were made for the masses. So they were quickly produced decks that weren't perfect, and I know he was trying to embrace a little bit of that imperfection. And I think that joy is found in imperfection. You know, trying to reach for something that's perfect or like ultra crystal clear can really be difficult to inject like fun into. It's very hard to be perfect and fun. So rough edges, and when I say rough edges, I don't mean literal rough edges because the whole deck is very like clean, and I'll also of course show you more cards, but just like not reaching for necessarily like the crispiest whatever finish is awesome. It's one of the things that I find so wonderfully charming about this deck. So let's take a look really quick at a deck that doesn't do that, that is very polished and almost perfect, and compare how these are different. I will bring that in here. The True Black Tarot. Oops, as I hit this off. Now, no deck is perfect, but this deck like approaches what you would consider perfection to be. And I don't mean that better in any way than this. What I mean by that is that the art especially is so finely rendered and so like realized that one might call this more perfect art. He's going for ultra crisp, ultra clean, ultra realistic, where art in this deck is going for fun. Like what a perfect card to turn over. Clearly, like just more effort was put into the rendering of this, which does not make it better in any way. It just makes it more realistic, more refined, more rendered. But this is very stiff and cold and distant. I did a whole video on this recently, and one of the things that I find interesting about it is that this deck makes itself feel distant from you. It makes itself feel big and like there's an element of grandeur to it that almost makes you feel kind of like small and like you have to like grovel at its feet. This one, no. Like I'm gonna chill with that gal. She looks cool as hell. I just love it. So this deck, there is none of that. I want to have a pumpkin spice latte with this gal in her pumpkin chariot. Like we're gonna go chill after work. And that level of whimsy and fun makes me feel way more joy with this deck. There is space for this and it's gorgeous and beautiful, but there is also space for this. And I love that we don't have to pick. We can have, you know, several decks. It's great. Okay, cool. Enough about the True Black, though. I gabbed on enough about that. Let's talk about this deck, and I'm going to take this off to the side, pull a few specific cards, and we will get going. Goodness me. I was like rifling through this deck to pick out cards, and I just couldn't help but smile. Oh, excuse me as I burp. I couldn't help but smile the whole time. And that right there is like clear indication of just like the fun factor injected into this deck. When I'm shuffling through, say, the True Black Tarot, first I'm annoyed that it's hard to rifle through. But then I'm like almost reverent in some way. It feels like this big deal. I'm like, I gotta be really like quiet around it. And this one I'm like, nah, let's like put on some sweet jams and like have fun. Here I pulled out the aces because who doesn't love some aces? And we'll go over the suits again. So the suits have been redone with candles as wands, cauldrons as cups, ghosts as swords, and pumpkins as pentacles. The ghosts were the ones that when I first heard like, oh, obviously this should be ghosts, I was like, huh? But then it totally makes sense. Ghosts are very ephemeral and like airy, and swords traditionally are the air suit. So yeah, it makes absolute perfect sense. So what are we seeing here in our aces? Well, we're definitely seeing the vector art style that Tom used. So when I say vector art, I mean, let's take a peek at the ace a little closer. Very consistent line weight. So the lines are evenly weighted the entire way through. And by weight, I mean the thickness of the line. It actually does look like some of these lines have a little bit of variation along their length. But no matter how large or small you make these images, they will always remain perfectly smooth. That is one of the benefits of vector lines. And then obviously all the color fills are perfectly smooth as well. So there are no gradients, there is no texture, and that's pretty cool. That is embracing that wood block style that Tom was going for, that Marseille decks in general go for. And here is a perfect example of that kind of embracing imperfection. Here we have two fingers holding a match, lighting our candle here, and the fingers do not look rendered in the same way, say, the True Black. If this was the True Black Tarot, we would see every little joint and flake and bit of skin, and like we do see the fingernails, but we would see like the sheen off the fingernails, where this is like, no, it's fingers, you get it. And I can almost hear his voice, from his videos just being like, it's fingers, what do you want? Like, just, it's the Ace of Wands, deal with it. And I love that. It's almost irreverent in how straightforward it is. And but that like level of kind of Tom straightforwardness with the whimsy just makes me smile. It's such a fun little like push and pull. With the cauldrons here, we have this big old spoon in our cauldron and the fire down below. This ace of ghosts, there's a little ghost on tombstone and then another ghost. It's just so damn cute. And then all the pumpkins, like this is my favorite suit, the pumpkins. We have this almost goofy pumpkin that is like not afraid to be a little curvy and wiggly. And then our autumn leaves spilling over the top too. The other thing I love about this deck, as my foot falls asleep, is like the real embracing of the theme. Like this is a theme deck through and through. He wanted a Halloween pip deck. He didn't have one. There wasn't one on the market, so he just made one, and he like really leaned into it. There's no point in this deck where he's like, oh, he like sort of took his foot off the gas pedal. It's like, nah, he slammed it to the floor and crushed a pumpkin while doing that. Like it's absolutely great. So yeah, these are our aces here. Let's kind of flip through some of the minors because people tend to skip minors in pip decks, which makes me so sad because I love pips, first of all. I love the minor arcana almost more than I love the major arcana, but don't tell them. But he actually did spend a lot of effort making sure all the pip cards had fun little things to them. So let's dive in and take a peek. First up on the docket are the candles. That's the wrong card. Okay, great. So here we have the candles. First of all, we of course have seen the ace. But check this out. I love all the little accoutrements that is in these cards. So obviously we just have 2 candles, and then we're going to have 3 candles and 4 candles. So that is what it is. But little touches like we have our orange candle and our black candle, and those have little different wax spillages across the top. And then we have our colors inverted on our flames. Very nice little touches. Way to go. But then we have like cool little leaves down here, and we have some moons and some bats. So some extra little details thrown in to increase the autumnal Halloweeniness and provide a little extra stuff to look at. Even things like we have a happy moon and a sad moon. I just love that. Little beads on the side. We'll throw these off here. Again, and like it's not the same stuff on each one. So we have similar foliage to what was happening over here, but you can tell it's different. And not that that's always important. Like there's nothing wrong with copying and pasting, but it's always appreciated when a little extra effort's put in and a little more design is put in. So not only are these two little pieces of foliage different, but they're different from the ace. And it just gives you some cool stuff to look at. And then we have our little bats around the side too, even some different colored candles. Here again, we have moons, we have plant things, not plant things, actual plants, like talk about whimsical joy. This plant is made up of two moons, a stem, and then a whole bunch of bats and a pumpkin. Like, ooh, it's so cute. I just love it. So that willingness to just like take the assets he's got and be like, no, I want to build a plant out of my bats and my moons. It like is this extra layer of something to look at and be like, wait a second, that plant looks kind of funny. And be like, oh, I get what you're doing there. Here we're mixing in all of our colors. So we have a little bit of black candle, a little bit of orange candle, a little bit of purple candle. Was really tempted to break out into sort of like a Mambo number 5 style, like a little bit of, yeah, we're not going to go there because Louis Vega can stay out of my YouTube videos. I don't know if I have a problem with Louis Vega. It just feels like a weird pull to bring up Mambo number 5 in this Halloween Marseille deck video. Again, here we have some of those plants, different this time, made out of kind of different stuff. The moons are the blooms on this time. Yeah, blooms is fine. And then the bats are the leaves. Colin, that's the word that you need. Here we have some different combinations of moons, leaves, and bats. I like stuff like this too, like these little like kind of motion or sound lines. Just another new element that we really haven't seen. And each of these has a different treatment. So now here we have 2 happy moons on this one. And then the 10s always have the X for 10, kind of the Roman numeral for 10, if you will. And I also like, I'm curious, this does come up a couple of times. In this center candle here, we're always seeing a 2-tone flame. So a nice little distinguishing feature. I guess not on that 3, but that's okay. On all the high numbers anyway, we're seeing that little 2-tone flame. There's one. So as our candles are growing, as we're getting through the suit, they're kind of evolving a little bit. And that's super cool. Ooh, I even like that, especially here, our wax is dripping further and further. Gives it a nice little bit of motion there. And even that they're not dripping like that on that side. Candles burn different. That's kind of cool that there's a variation. And then we get to the court cards. And every court, or every suit, I should say, the court card kind of tells a little bit of a story. This one is kind of the most clear narrative, but they all have a real theme. They occupy some space in this world. And pip cards have little bits of Halloween in them, especially with the color and the contents, but it's hard for pip cards to really tell a story, let's be honest. At the end of the day, it's 8 candles. It's whatever, 8 candles, 10 candles, 9 candles. You're getting general flavor, but with people cards, with the court cards, we're really getting a little bit more. I'll put those off to the side. Here we have the student, the chasseur. Boy, I don't even know what that is. I think maybe like the seeker of the suit, the facilitator, and the incarnation of that particular suit. So now we have our cards here. And I really love that he includes things that he finds important in decks. So for example, diversity is hugely important to Tom Benjamin. So we have different colored folks here. And it's like blue people and purple people and gray people, but that's diversity. You know, it's not all the same. You're going to see guys and gals and folks of all colors. And, you know, we'll see other things too once we get to the other suits. Really, really cool. I love how foreboding almost these look. It really gives you that bright pop of flame on the candles because all the other colors are so dark. So here we have this sect of monks almost, these robed, cloaked figures ascending up to maybe like a stone archway, gazing off the same top of this hill, probably up at the stars. by Candle and Starlight making more candles, which is so dang cool, like facilitating this whole suit, and then being on top and like in control of all these candles around. Totally dope, just love it. And again, like there are decisions that are a little bit inconsistent. For example, we have horizontal lines kind of darkening this hill. This one has some lines kind of showing us a little bit of movement, and this one's pretty flat. And you know what? I don't care, because this deck is not about the like ultra consistency of like rendering and finishes. It's like, no, look at this sweet guy looking at this telescope at stars. Look at this dude. He's like super happy because he's got all his candles. Look at how sweet this one is. He's like making more candles. I'm not I'm not interested in like nitpicking because I'm too busy just being joyful and smiling. It's great. This one, like I said, is really kind of the clearest narrative. You can really see the progression, especially with these three cards, of like what's going on in the candle suit. But we can definitely get those kind of vibes and themes with the next. Speaking of, let's go to the... Oh my god, I forgot the next one. The Cauldrons. There we go. Nailing it. We're going to make it, folks. I promise. We're going to get there. Taking a look at the Cauldrons next. Now, I like that there are some callbacks or references to other suits. So, for example, here we have the stars from the Wands suit or the Candle suit showing up here. And in the Candles suit, we have little pumpkins down here from the Pumpkin suit. So lots of little things kind of going back and forth throughout the deck, which really just makes it feel unified. You know, it's like, yeah, stars show up in this world. Like, because it's really, this deck in many ways does feel like a world that you're sort of inhabiting. I love this. Marseille decks, like traditional Marseille decks, will have this style. At least some of them will. And just that he would, you know, go and make his little witches down there and put this sweet bloomage, whatever, plant life, you get the idea. That he would nod towards historical Marseille decks with this very updated, modern, whimsical Halloween deck. It's great. It's totally great. I do love these plants too. And even just like their pots, kind of style of pots. They're not trying to be fancy goblets or anything. They're just cauldrons, and I love that. Here we see, and we'll see throughout the suit, a lot of this accoutrement, this foliage kind of wrapping around. And this almost gives me like Audrey 2 Feed Me Seymour vibes. Like very creepy, spooky plants that are going to like eat you, and I love that. Look at this little man, this little bean, this little pumpkin man. And then all this autumnal stuff in the background. I particularly love these little curly cues coming off. But like, how cute is that little guy? Oh man, Tom, if you're watching, I hope it doesn't bother you that I think this deck is so cute, but it really is, man. It's got such a whimsy and a love to it. Here we see this almost reminds me of like house decorations. Like I might put this on a table. It's like little pockets of decoration, but it just fits really well. Same kind of deal here. This is like a table runner almost, but check this out. Like even each little pocket of leaves not only is different from one another, but has different colors. Like lots of little subtle love put into these cards just to give you some interesting things to look at and kind of make it feel a little bit more rich as you go. And then we got those little chompers down there too. Just love it. And now we have, you know, some callbacks to our other suits here, like the little bats on the side. And it's really common as you go through Pip decks. I'm actually pretty impressed how much filigree he filled here, but you'll start seeing less and less as you go. Here we have, actually, this is pretty darn good. But like this card, for example, we have some stuff kind of filling in the gaps. But on the 10, we just have the pumpkin and a few little bats. That's just because you're filling it up with so many cauldrons. Like eventually you just run out of space to put other stuff because there are so many of the Pip that you see. Oh, other fun note. I love that there are no numbers on these cards. You've got to count the number of items on the card, and he has not made it difficult. You know, even with something like this, which is admittedly a fairly busy card. Come on, Colin, let's pick it up. The number of cauldrons is extremely clear. You just got to count them, and that's awesome. The only exception are the 10s, where again, he has put the X, the Roman numeral for 10, and that's just a lovely little consistency throughout the deck. And it gives the 10 a little bit more pow, and 10s are kind of powy cards anyway. Super cool. Okay, so now we have all of our pips, and we will put those off to the side. Just lovely. I just want to like take another look at this guy because, oh my God, I just love him. I think that's my favorite one of the Cups cards. All right, here. So here we have our Cauldron folks. And again, total diversity of genders and skin tones. Some more realistic skin tones, some non-realistic skin tones. I think that's kind of a greenish. It's a little hard to tell in that light. Either way, plenty of variety. Definitely some ability differences too, which is totally cool. This little guy in this chair, which I just love. Looking at this happy little fish down here. And it's just great. Like, these things that are important, he has implemented in the deck, and I just love that. So here there is less of, say, like a narrative at play. You know, we can kind of see the progression of the candles, but we get like all these different little bits of like cooking, essentially. Here we have ingredients in a pot that are kind of still alive. We have things starting to cook on a fire here. We have like a literal like chef who's like chopping pumpkins and putting in pepper and like into his pot. And then finally our incarnation, like a witch with her cauldron, like casting a spell maybe with the brew that she's making. So cool. I also like that the names are gender neutral. Originally, these were flipped, where this gal was the facilitator and this guy was the incarnation. But, you know, he says in his video, oh my God, I haven't plugged this either. He has wonderful walkthroughs of his own deck on his channel, which I highly recommend as well, because it's always fun hearing people get excited about their own work. But this kind of like archetypal idea of a witch with a cauldron, that's like the incarnation of a cauldron. That is the pinnacle of it. Where this guy cooking using a cauldron is great, but it is not the Halloween ideal of what a cauldron could be. Super cool. Love that swap. Very, 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 very neat. Again, we have a little pumpkin here calling back. Another cool thing, if I'm referencing a previous video here, a cycle, and when I say cycle, I mean several cards that kind of reference each other in a cool way, are all of the chasseurs, however you say that. They all have telescopes. So here we have this like Elvis-y looking dude with a little telescope there. Obviously a fairly large telescope with the candles one here. Just lovely. Now the quartz in the next suit are my absolute favorite. And we'll take a peek at the pips as well. That is the ghosts. Oh, can't even wait. Ooh, okay. that is the start and the end of the spooky ghost noises. So up next we have the ghosts, or the swords. Now, full disclosure here, I kind of brainstormed with Tom when he was making the suit of ghosts. He asked me like, how do you think I can implement this? Because I want ghosts that kind of look like swords, which is such a clever idea. But if I go through and I'm like, oh, this like looks really great. It's not that I kind of like helped inspire him a little bit, but really he was the one who implemented, and he did a great job. So I'm not trying to be self-serving in any way. I think the way Tom implemented this idea was really, really great. Because I kind of gave him some sketches and some ideas, but he did all the work. We already talked about the ace with the little ghost on the tombstone. Oh, so my heart. Joy, pure joy again. Oh, there's another one. So cool. And he does a really cool thing with purple too. So here right at the beginning, we have a couple of little splashes of purple. And then at the end, you'll see what he does too. But I really love that the ghosts themselves, again, look like swords. What a smart move. Not only does it give him lots of like narrative space, I suppose, or compositional space. That's what I'm looking for. To really fill the whole page with ghosts. Like at the end of the day, you got to fill up a tarot card. It's also a really clever callback to the original suit. The original suit, you know, the classic suit, if you will, with swords. And then it gives it that fun Halloween flair. And then he's got all these extra little things sprinkled around, like coffins. There's actually a lot of coffins and tombstones. So, you know, obviously referencing dead things for the ghosts and giving you a really fresh, extra little thing to look at when ghosts come up. We had tons of leaves in the cauldron. We now have these tombstones and things in the ghosts. But, you know, there's also leaves here and little pumpkins. So it's not like these are totally devoid of other references. Here is our clever thing at the end. We have on the 9 and the 10, purple ghosts. They are in many ways referencing the headstones and the caskets from earlier. And I really, really like these ghosts. I actually find them a little bit haunting and spooky because their hands are leaves. It almost feels like it's an effigy, like it is a scarecrow or something, like built out of leaves and cloth. So like we have real ghosts in the background and like you're almost building another one to like try and simulate it or like offer something to it. I mean, that might be reading in a little bit, but it does give like kind of a cool, like genuinely sort of creepy vibe. Just love it. Here is our Roman numeral to complete, or not complete, but continue the cycle for our tens. Just love it. And then, the court cards on the ghosts. Ooh, I just love them. I think the amount of squealing that I'm doing is testament to the joy that I feel for this deck. And again, it's all about these little decisions to include stuff like the tombstone with the extra ghost on it. That is not a serious compositional inclusion. And when I say serious, like, not that it's not, what do I exactly mean by this? It is a deliberate decision to kind of embrace whimsy. I suppose that's what I mean. If we were going for like a real spooky headstone, you might put like someone's name and like today's date or something like, oh no, they died so recently. But no, it's like a silly little ghost, a spooky little ghost that is not taking itself too seriously, but is like perfectly suited for the suit itself. Funny enough, just lovely. Now here for our court cards, we have ghost pirates. And I just love it. They're all kind of grayscale, which is super cool. So as a set together, they look like spooky and cool. We have our student, our chasseur, our seeker or whatever with their telescope again, and this super dope pirate flag. Come on now. Let's just get a little taste of that sucker because it's so cool. The birds in the background. This like awesome badass bald gal who's like swinging in to take a slice out of you, also wearing high heels at the same time. Love it. And then finally our very, very almost like over the top looking pirate with this big old feather in his cap and the awesome mustache. But they all have like this kind of void look in their eyes. So they're spooky and gray and ghostly. I guess like diversity from a skin perspective is not here, but that is not important because they're literally ghosts. And how cool is that? And obviously that was taken into consideration with other cards, and we have plenty of like gender diversity and things here too. That is something I bring up only because it's so important to Tom, and I think it's so cool that he really embraced it here, even in a suit of all gray people. So neat. I also love the ghost on the front of the boat here. I forget what that's called. I may be sure to look that up. But you'll often see like a carved mermaid or a seahorse or something on the front of a ship. But on this one, it's a spooky little ghost. I love these. This narrative is as clear to me as the candles narrative. It's not quite as like comic book panel of like step 1, step 2, step 3. But I could easily see all of this happening at once. You know, this is on top of here, like that person is in the crow's nest above this. Off, you know, maybe in the middle here, this gal is swinging off to the side, and then here we're seeing that same thing. So he's over here like doing a little pirate jig. There's a cannonball down there maybe. Yeah, love it. So like all of these people are existing on the same pirate ship, just kind of like doing their own thing and just having a great time of it. I love 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 it. Pirates are sweet, and you can probably tell from the tarot deck that I'm making, which is now called the Ocean Dry Tarot. I haven't even said that on my channel yet, I don't think. But I love nautical-themed stuff, and we have pirate ghosts. Come on now. Okay, I'm going to bring it back in, because can we talk about the pirate ghosts? Okay, we're going to shuffle them up here. We're going to take a look, because, bam! There's still pirate ghosts. There's pirate ghosts in this deck. Oh, joy, joy. That's the word of the day. Okay, but for real, okay, we're done. Oh, no. These are these are pumpkins now. We're done with the pirate ghosts. But are we? Yeah, we're done. Cool. So the last suit is the pumpkins. And if you know me, I have a soft spot for the pentacle suit anyway. And this does not disappoint because, oh my goodness, this is another very clever nod towards a traditional Marseille deck that often has this particular swoop filigree on it with the artist's name and date. So we have Tom Benjamin here with 2019. And then we also have a little ghost up there and some moons and a little bat and a little pumpkin, just all sorts of little filigree. It's just great. And here, again, as we've seen in the other suits, we have some accoutrement that is unique to the pumpkins, but also some stuff like the bats that carries over. Here we have a little nod towards the ghosts suit with a purple object that has a ghost on it, but you can also see a cauldron and a candle, so we got everything in there. And then the unique item to the pumpkins is really the corn. And I just love those stalks of corn. It feels very autumnal, very kind of harvest. And I just love that. And what better suit could there be for harvest than the pentacles and the pumpkins? I really like the sixes in general in this deck, but orange and purple are lovely near complementary colors that look great together. That is certainly no exception. Some kind of fun things like a nod to the organization of a traditional Marseille deck with this 7. That's certainly true with the whole candle suit as well. That was very traditional in the way that they were presented. And like, look at how lovely these pumpkins are. Like, each one is slightly different from the coloration. This one's got some yellows. This one's like kind of going alternating here. And just like, they're blobby and they are fun and they don't take themselves too seriously, but they're pumpkins and they're really nicely rendered too. Just like the whimsy of it, the kind of like, I'm going to use carelessness as a word, but I don't mean careless in the application, in the creation of it. I mean careless in like, maybe carefree is a better word. Yes, carefree is absolutely a better word. The carefree quality of just like, yeah, we're like the weird pumpkins that maybe you're not going to find at like, the grocery store, but we are beautiful. We are proud pumpkins. Here we see the corn returning and the moon's returning too, as it almost looks like eyes in this, like, ooh, spooky pumpkin eyes. Lovely inclusion of the bat and the moons as plant life again. Boy, words are not coming to me. And completing our cycle with the 10s, with the little X's. Now, beep, I don't even want to spoil the surprise of this next card. The whole suit of swords in its entirety is my favorite quartz, but this next card is my favorite court card by far because, oh my God, this girl is gonna get you. Look at that. She's like a sweet little gal, but she's like, that's a crazed look in her eyes right there. She's coming for you. Even this pumpkin is terrified. That dude's like, no. Oh, just love it. These off to the side, and let's take a look at our court of pumpkins. And this one, again, is not like a specific narrative being told, but it is archetypal pumpkin stuff happening. We have pumpkin carving happening in 2 different ways, in a very traditional, like literally scooping stuff out of the pumpkin. Oh, I thought that all of the... Oh, wait, that's facilitator. Ho, 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 ho. Just kidding. I thought they all had telescopes, and they sure do. I just had them in the wrong order. So the archetypal ideal of pumpkins is literal pumpkin carving. What a cool little take. I love that. Like, getting your hands in there and, like, getting all in. And then here we have a dude in a pumpkin patch picking out pumpkins, kind of scoping which pumpkins he wants. And I love his little overalls too and his boots. Oh, so cute. And then, of course, the story of a princess in a pumpkin carriage. Just loving it, but she's rocking those high heels, and I'm loving those. Orange dress, orange leaves, orange wheels, orange carpet. She is embracing orange, and I'm loving that. Even like orange skin tone. And what is brown but dark orange? So every color on this is orange, and I'm in love, an LUV love. We also have some cool consistencies with these branches coming in. And this kind of thing, just satisfies some deep, dark crevice of my soul. We have branches coming in from the correct sides, if you will, from the left, from the left, from the right, from the right. Oh, if you saw my video on the Supra Oracle, there are some hands that come in from like the quote unquote wrong side, and it drives me absolutely nuts. But here we have that lovely, beautiful consistency across the top. I also think it's interesting that this is the only one without leaves on it, but I don't hate that. There's leaves down at the bottom here, and that's just kind of an interesting choice. I'd love to hear if there was any thought behind that, or if not, nothing wrong. Just like, I love those little tiny details, some kind of cool things. Okay, great. I think we've looked at the pips enough here. Let's take a look at the court. I always do that. I want to like, here, right now, you and me, the viewer, we're going to take a moment to center ourselves. I will not call the court cards and the major cards the same thing. This is my promise to me, Colin, and to you, the viewer. I can't promise that. I'll probably screw it up. But like, what the heck, for real? Let's take a look at the major arcana. Now, normally, the major arcana are worthy of long discussions, and this major arcana is no exception, but I will point you to Tom Benjamin's video on the major arcana. I will also figure out how to put that in the link down below, or in the descriptions down below, because he really goes card by card and talks about why he chose all these cool stories, because each card really references a kind of like spooky Halloween story. And it's so cool because he's got all these great references and literary moments that he pulls from, and he can just do it way better than I can, quite frankly. But we're, of course, going to look at him because, come on. Now, the word of the day is joy. Let's talk about the joyfulness of these cards. This is a self-portrait. Like, come on now. So cool. We have this self-portrait. We have this pumpkin that's like, whoa, what's going on here? This little like mask that he's holding up. Just the willingness to put a self-portrait in a deck, I think, is so cool, first of all. To put it as the Fool, even more whimsical and fun. And I also love that all of his trumps are not majored. What was that sentence, Colin? Holy crap. All of his majors are not numbered. Jeez, whatever. He did that so people can put them in whatever order they like. My deck is maybe infamously completely reordered as far as the major arcana goes. So I could put this in my ordering and it would be totally fine. Nobody would know the better, which is super cool. So here, I don't know why I picked those up. We're going to put those right back down. Here we have the Fool jumping around, and I love that. And the Magician, again, normally, depicting all of its, all the suits of the deck. No exception here. Fun Easter egg. Apparently, brooms were the original suit for swords. So you see the broom there, but a ghost is on there too, and witches hold brooms. It's like no big deal. You can also tell that he drew all of these first because there are some changes in the rendering style. For example, pumpkins, if I were to grab the suit of pumpkins here, look a lot different in their final iteration than an early iteration. And again, that's the kind of decision where it's like, yeah, I could go back and fix it, but like, what the hell, why not? We're going to keep it in there. And that is a decision for joy because he wanted to read with it for Halloween. How beautiful is that? It's not the kind of thing where you're going to like pain over it for like months and months and years like some people. Me. He's like, nah, I want it done. I want to use it. And that level of like, again, carefreeness just like sings and makes it fun because it's like, whatever. I do find it interesting that some of the majors and some of the cards in general have full color illustrations, and then some of them have blank backgrounds. I will say, this deck is what it is, and I wouldn't really want it to change. But if I had like one thing that I think might add a little bit more like consistency to the deck, would be something like all of the majors having a full color back, and then all of the minors and court cards having white as a back. It might just help aid in optics. Like, so when you pull a card, it's very easy to tell if it is a court card, a pip card, or a major card, but not really a big deal. These are all very clearly labeled with names down at the bottom. It is not difficult to know what you're looking at here. Check out this topless spider gal. Like, if that's not full of joy, I don't know what it is. God, I just love it. Again, I say things and I'm just like, you should probably take that. I'm like, whatever. Check out this topless devil guy. Also great. Everyone's topless in this deck, and I'm loving it. but it's like goofy, silly stuff. I love this hero font. This spooky ghost rising out of this grave that people are like praying at. I'm really impressed with just the composition in general and how like raw that ghost is. Like, look at that face. That face is screwed up in a very cool, spooky ghost way, and I'm loving it. And like all those little jiggy jaggies around the edge too. Jiggy jaggies. Here we have these beautiful silhouettes in a pumpkin patch with a great spirit pumpkin looking over the top. Oh, so cool. Some of the prints look really dark on screen here. They actually look just fine in person, especially under bright lights. So there's kind of a, if you can't see it, a silhouette of the headless horseman here. That pumpkin is just like on fire and moving. Okay, here we go. Let's dive in on justice here, for example, because let's talk about joy in a card. This badass zombie killer has beheaded a zombie and ripped its arms off and just like left it for dead as she walks away. What? That's amazing. Like the willingness to just like lean into crazy Halloween tropes like that and just like go totally non-traditional on some cards. Loving it. Every single second of it. And this is the kind of image and composition where if you really break it down, you're like, what? Like, this is maybe like sand, if I really had to look at it. And it's a hill with like a single gravestone on top. And like, where's the rest of the zombie body? And it's at that point in thinking where you're like, shut up, brain. Look at this badass zombie killer who's like, I think still wearing high heels. And has just killed a zombie and walking away. Like, cue explosion in the background in like slow motion. Who cares about the context? This is a delightful image and I absolutely love it. Tom is a known vampire enthusiast, and I was very curious where the vampire would show up. During the whole creation process of this deck, which he chronicled on Instagram, there was a kind of like the question of like, ooh, where's the vampire going to be? Where's the vampire going to be? And if I were to bring the box back in, he also drew this vampire for the box. I love that this doesn't appear in the deck anywhere. This is its own vampire. This is its own vampire. And I think there might be another vampire somewhere. But like, how cool is it that there is fresh, hot off the presses artwork for the box that doesn't appear anywhere else? A lot of times, like this is the Magician card from the deck included here, which is also totally cool. Like, it is very common to include a card that you really love on the box, but we get an extra little dose of new stuff. Loving it. Every single second of it. I also love all these bats here. Ooh, this is also kind of cool too. This image really speaks to the Fool image as well. You often have a figure on the precipice of a cliff, but you have a much more in control figure here. Like, he could literally turn into a bat and fly if he wants. I love that. I don't know if it was a deliberate callback to the Fool, but I love that it is a very Fool-like image, but just without any of like the foolish context of it. He also talked about the names. This is apparently some kind of like modernized, slightly incorrect French, and that is, again, just like another really whimsical, fun touch. Like, it was intentional for sure. And pretty much any intentional decision I am down for with art. As long as an artist has thought it through and said, yes, this is what I want to do, I'm into it. I love it. So I don't know French, so I couldn't tell you what's like correct or incorrect about it. But the fact that he's like, nah, I'm going to use the kind of French that I want to use. Just love it. I love a good gargoyle, and a gargoyle as the strength card, super cool. And this is another one of those cards where I'm like, why not include like a dark background on the back? But I love it. It's great. It looks super cool. It does really help give a lot more contrast to the figure here. You wouldn't want it to get lost in the same way that the Fool or like the Chariot kind of gets lost. But those work because we have, a bright fiery head. The Hermit is often depicted with like a lantern. So this is almost like, the bright inner light shining out here. It really works for what the composition is. Strength, you're really like wanting to focus on the strong thing, which in this case is the gargoyle. So it works great. Just love it. I know he's a little bit like, he being Tom Benjamin, a little like iffy on the Hanged Man here, that it's too like obvious. I love it. I don't think it's too obvious at all. Again, it just kind of gives you another Halloween themed thing or like a harvest themed thing that isn't explicitly a story. Like this is Jekyll and Hyde here, for example. This is, I forget what this is. 100% exactly why his video is way cooler than this, because he talks about exactly what all these figures are. But this is not a specific reference. It's just a scarecrow. Loving it though. Like I don't think scarecrows are usually hung like this, which is awesome. Like it's working into that tarot flavor. 13, in a normal, or in a very traditional Marseille deck, the Fool is unnumbered and Death is unnamed. So it's just 13. And it's in the space of the title. So again, like if you wanted to reorder your cards, Death is always 13 in pretty much every tarot deck. But like you could theoretically put this in another spot, which is very cool. He live created this in one of his videos, which I'm totally going to steal, by the way. I love the idea of working on a video live. But this hat, that loop, which is beautiful in my opinion, was kind of an accident. And I just love that he just like left an accident in because he liked it. Again, joy, loving it, perfect, so cool. The Phantom of the Opera is on the devil, and it's totally dope. I love the music notes on the boat down here. Just killing it. So cool. This is his favorite major card. I believe that is still true. And it's lovely. It's got a lovely composition to it, a really nice arc that kind of guides your eye. We have a pumpkin here, which always centers you back in. So as your eye follows this lightning bolt off, or wonders where the water is going, or follows the directionality of that ghost moving, there's always something to bring you back in, like, nope, spooky pumpkin. Hey, did you remember the spooky pumpkin? Oh, I'm going to look at that spooky pumpkin again. Oh, hey, did you see a spooky pumpkin there? So cool. Here's the star card. And I love the little touch of like, the star being up here, which is like the real star, but also that these kids are looking at the bright object, which is the jack-o'-lantern. So it's almost like this is the star, but this is actually the star up there. Super cool. And oh my God, the moon and the sun are my favorite cards in this deck, because check out this soulful werewolf and this mummy. How perfect is that for the sun and the moon? I love it. And this little crab, I love that crab. That crab makes me so happy. This crab makes me as happy as the pumpkin does in, what was it, the Four of Cauldrons? So damn cute. So damn cute. And I love everything Egypt and mummies, and it's great. We also have like a crazy face in the sun and the moon. I love that too. Just like lean into the whimsy. It's pretty traditional, but like that's a goofy ass face, and I love it. My apologies. I'm getting a little saucy with my language tonight. I think that's probably just me being sleepy. All right, here we have the Frankenstein's monster, I believe. Kind of like waking up Frankenstein in a very creepy way to have him reap what he sows. And then, oh, the world with the pumpkin and all the candy. And also the only card that breaks the border. I see you, bit of candy. You cannot escape my eye. It's just great. And all of these cards together really inject what is needed in a deck like this, which is a little bit of like narrative world building and story. Because we did see that a bit in the court cards, but especially with like a Halloween themed deck, you want some of those traditional Halloween stories, or at least I do. And clearly he did too, because he put them in. And so it's so cool and fun just to experience that. Every time you draw a card, you're like, ooh, what story is going to be brought in? What little thing can I experience? And ha-ha, you thought that I forgot about them, but here are the great court cards again for the ghosts, because can we really, for real, just look at these, because they're so dang cool. We're going to leave them out here. These are going to be on the picture for the thumbnail, because I love them that much. Tom, bravo. Absolutely beautiful. The deck turned out gorgeous. He, with like the fury of 1,000 Vikings, just like whipped this thing out too. I think it took him like 2 months or something. And I was joking around with him because I'm like, you are not going to finish your deck before I finish mine. Because I've been working on mine for like, I don't know, 6 years or something. And he's like, ha ha ha, like I'll get mine done in 3 years. 2 months later, I'm literally holding it in my hands, and I could not be happier with it. Boy, you know, from the beginning of this video to now, this deck has genuinely filled me with joy from start to finish, as it always does. And, it's one thing to say it. It's another thing to just literally be filled with joy at the end of this. Like, holding these cards as objects, looking through their images has genuinely made me happy. And for that, I thank you, Mr. Benjamin. I just love it. Again, if you have not checked out his channel, cannot recommend it enough. He is amazing and honestly a huge inspiration. I would not be nearly as involved with tarot as I am, or anywhere near as excited about it if it was not for him. So for the incredible deck and for your boundless inspiration, I say, thank you, friend. It is just lovely to be able to watch you on YouTube and interact with you on Instagram. So cool. With that, I will leave you guys to a joyful day, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Oh, wait, it's still not right. Bye-bye.